Chapter 23, Showdown at the Loading Complex. Colonel Owens stood his ground and kept silent and refused to take the bait. Sergeant Manning stood by his side and stared back at Professor Anatoly and Ken. "We are not doing anything to help you unless we return to the habitat. So unless you get them to let us in, we are not helping anyone. Colonel Owens, they need us more than we need them. When we came on this mission, we never expected to get back. So we will do whatever we need to stop those light cloud things." An impasse. Seeing that the two sides were hardening their positions, Jake took Zilia by the hand and went up to Zuriel and Zegan to appeal to them. "Zuriel, you told me you did not agree with what the light clouds are doing on Earth and you would like to find a way to solve your world's problems. So help Ken and my dad to stop this." "Zilia, father, Jake's father came all the way to our world to find him. You have explained to me about our problems with our star Helios, and has told me what has happened to Jake's home world after our mass-gathering entities arrived. And argued, gentlemen, both men and Helicians, you are all the same, letting your male egos stand in the way of the solution that beckons us. Why can't we at least try to trust each other, lay open your cards and work together? Zuriel, you have to find a way to solve your problems without endangering our world. What if we can offer you help at once with a nuclear device?" Professor Anatoly started to speak to tell and to shut up, but with a wave of his hand, Colonel Owens intervened. "Ms. Waterston, stop. No, I will not confirm that what Ms. Waterston's uninformed utterances, but I can say that if we do, it is under my cruise control. And unless my team is allowed to reboard the habitat soon, we will not offer you any assistance." And interceded immediately, "Come on, Colonel. Making threats will not get us the help from Zuriel and Senator Zegan. If you won't say it, I will. Yes, we have a nuke on board, but we all must agree that setting off the nuke is not the best option for any of us. Zuriel, then you need to let us to have this nuclear device to increase the critical yield of our delivery vehicle to Helios. An actual demonstration will convince everyone, including the high priests, on the use of atomic devices in lieu of mass-gathering entities scavenging for mass on SOL-3. Colonel Owens tapped on the window of the control room in the direction of the habitat. "First things first, shields blocking the habitat are to be neutralized. Sergeant, go and check on the habitat once the shields are down. Brief Captain Evans of the latest developments, and the habitat must maintain contact with me at all times." "Is that understood?" Zegan whispered something in Zuriel's ear, who then gave a signal to Zoe, who deactivated the shields to allow access and communications with the habitat. "Zegan, as a warning against any surprise action on your part, the shields are only down partially, and I wish to stress that our shield technology is much more advanced and we can block any explosive device by absorbing the force of the explosion to enhance its own intensity. Put simply, the bigger the explosion, the stronger the shield." After the Sarge left the control room and entered the habitat, the Colonel's personal comms link came alive and Captain Evan could be heard. "Colonel Owens, sir, I have the Master Sergeant's briefing and can also report the habitat is secure and at your command." Colonel Owens: "Yes, Captain Evans, it is also good to hear that the habitat is all ready. But listen, we are working with the Helicians on equipping one of their rocket ships with the nuke we brought with us. Prepare a detailed operating procedure how to outfit their rocket. The Helician scientist name of Zuriel and his assistant Zoe will work with their technicians to adapt the nuke for deployment on their rocket." Professor Anatoly and the Colonel then proceeded to enter the habitat to prepare to jettison the nuke as agreed. Zoe and a team of his technicians went along to collect it for deployment on the rocket. Ken and then sat down with Ron, Zuriel, and Zegan to discuss the best way to demonstrate to the Supreme Council and the High Priests the power of the nuke. Ken asked Zuriel, "What is in the delivery vehicle that is used to seed your star Helios?" Zuriel: "We load our shuttles with the mass cargo and launch it to a dimensional gate for a short transit to an orbital position around our star Helios. We then launch the cargo at Helios, where its gravity pull it into the surface of Helios. We harvest Phaor from asteroids, and for this purpose of slowing down the H2 to helium changeover. Getting sufficient Phaor of purity was very difficult until we came upon your planet. The abundance and purity of Phae compounds, I think you call it steel, is so important that the Supreme Council instructed that we harvest as much as possible." Ken: "Is steel effective to slow down this change from H2 to helium fusion? And why do you just drop off the mass load onto the corona of your star? Is that effective?" Zuriel, we are perfecting a series of orbital satellites which will be able to project a dimensional gate with its endpoint anywhere the core of Helios. Then the effectiveness of the Fey mass load will be maximized. And, Zuriel, Zegan, then why are you taking our spent nuclear waste? What use is that to you? Zuriel, what? I never gave any instructions to do that. Zegan, Ms. Waterston, if what you say is true that something very suspicious is happening under our noses and we don't even know it is taking place. Zuriel, since nuclear technology is banned in Helia, I can imagine this nuclear material will be of interest to various groups on Heliu. From Zuriel's expression, Zegan knew he has information on this extraction of nuclear material that he did not want to share with the humans. Professor Anatoly, who had just rejoined them, Zuriel, as we have discussed in your laboratory, you need to have sensors to locate areas in Helios which have started the changeover from H2 fusion to that of helium. Then it would be ideal to set off nuclear devices set off at those locations. Zegan nodded in agreement. Zuriel, soon we can project Dimension Gate into the mass of our star. Then the nuclear explosions will drastically raise the temperature of your star so that it can convert to the carbon-nitrogen-oxygen fusion process. That together with mass seeding will prolong the lifespan of your star Helios. Zegan, Professor, we need blueprints on these devices so that we can then build sufficient numbers to do the complete job process? I am not sure we can take the risk of delay or failure to develop these weapons. Professor Anatoly, our agreement is that you pull back all of your light clouds from Earth, and we will contact Earth to offer you additional nukes. We will help you program their ignition sequence to get maximum effect on your star. I am not sure that we can offer you the blueprints on how to construct these nuclear devices. Zegan, it is not up to Zuriel or even me to authorize something like that. We need Supreme Council authority to enter into that level of cooperation. Let us win the Supreme Council over by exploding the first nuke on Helios to demonstrate the impact of a nuclear device on our star fusion process. Zoe, Zuriel, can I have a word with you in private? Zuriel and Zoe stepped aside. Yes, Zoe, I wanted a word with you too. I tried to delay the collection of atomic materials, even the Council issued instructions on that. Why do the humans say that our mass transfer bots took such materials? Zoe, Zuriel, Zegan is running a separate program where atomic material from SOL3 transferred directly to different dimensional gate address which I had not been able to trace. But it is somewhere on Heliu. Zuriel, Zegan, the very thing I have been trying to delay has already started on SOL3. We are destroying the humans' home planet. We are morally bound to help them. Zegan, I need to report this to Speaker Zolan. It will help us when the vote takes place on removal of the ban on atomic research, as the High Priests and Zegan are already smuggling atomic materials from SOL3. Zuriel, we can help the humans then, but we cannot trust many of Zegan's men on the Dimension Gate team. Only Zoe and a few of his men can be trusted then. We will be short-handed then. Who else can assist us then on the launch program to Helios? Zoe, I had a bit of help from Zilia in setting the programming of the rockets. Zuriel, you mean Zilia has been working here at the Dimensional Gate control room without my knowledge? Zoe, at first she said that she needed to understand how our equipment worked so she could help you set up the Dimensional Gate equipment you had in your home laboratory. Zuriel, so while I was at the main science center for my other duties, Zilia have been working here with Zoe. Now I can understand how the progress that we have been making on our equipment in our home laboratory has been so unbelievable. Zuriel signaled to Zilia, who left Jake's side and came over. Father, I have learned so much from working here and with Zoe. So please don't be angry with him. I coerced him to let me work here. Zuriel, angry? No, I am so proud of you, my dear. And Zoe, I am grateful for exposing Zilia to all she has learnt. Zoe, my point, Zuriel, is Zilia can interface the human technology of their nuclear device to our mass-loading rocket to Helios. Zuriel, yes, Zilia work with Jake and Ron to set up the interfaces. But I will need my modified dimensional gate equipment from my laboratory, here to open another gate to send a probe to monitor the results of the nuclear-enhanced rocket exploding on the Helios. Zilia, Father, I can program our house robot to load the equipment our vehicle at home and send it here to the loading bay control room. Zuriel gave Zilia a kiss on the forehead and said, "Good, that's my girl." He and Zilia then rejoined Senator Zegan, who was with the humans. Zegan, Colonel. We agree to work with you. It seems that there may have been some atomic material being transferred from SOL-3, but we are not responsible for that. It is hard to explain, but we want to stop that, and we need your nuke to force the decision by our highest authority. I cannot say more. Do we trust each other on this? Colonel Owen thought of this for a moment and then extended his hand to shake with Zegan. Zegan stared at his extended hand, and then Zilia said aloud, "Senator, that is the human action for trust, friendship and agreement." They shook hands on the decision to plan the nuclear arming of the mass-loading rocket to be launched at Helios. And being the curious journalist roamed around on the complex now that the guards were amenable to the presence of the humans. In one corner of the loading bay, two technicians were preparing to push some equipment into position under the rear nuclear weapons bay of the habitat. Sarge Manning operated the hatch and the one of the nukes was lowered. The Sarge had specific orders not to let the Helician techs go anywhere near to the habitat. Sarge then rotated the weapons turntable to access the particular nuke to be ejected, then operate the lifting mechanism to clamp onto the nuke and lower it onto the trolley provided by the technicians. Colonel also assigned Captain Evans to assist Zoe's team in outfitting the launch vehicle. After completing the removal of the nuke from the carousel, Captain Evans noticed Zoe controlling some panel on a device and the blue gleaming light came on around the launch vehicle. It looks like the shield around the launch vehicle is on. There is no need to, our nuke is coded and are safe until the correct targeting sequence is programmed and activated. Zoe, here, let me show you. Our portable shield generator device can put a shield up around the launch vehicle just with this program here. But I guess we can trust your knowledge of your devices. I will ask my men to remove all those shield devices. It will allow us to increase work faster to reduce the loading time. With that, the Helicians technicians deactivated the portable field generators and laid them to one side of the habitat, fortuitously the far side of the habitat away from the view of the loading bay main activity area. Captain Evans realized what this meant and immediately reported this to Colonel Owens. Colonel Owens, Captain Evans, Sarge Manning, we can use these portable shield generators for our defensive purposes. Gather enough units to equip the entire habitat. We can play their game too. What shields they use to keep us and we can use to keep them out if we choose to. Captain Evans and Alistair in one team with Ken, Anatoly, and Ron in another commandeered a few of these portable shield devices. They were provided to them by the Helicians to shield the nuclear device. These were quickly diverted and connected to the habitat. In essence, the habitat now possesses the Helician energy shield technology. In the commotion of loading the nuke onto their delivery vehicle, this went unnoticed by the Helicians, and agreed to engage the Helicians to distract their attention away from the habitat. The hours went by with the Helicians were all busy fitting out one of delivery vehicles to be launched into Helios with the nuke. The humans kept busy on the shield devices on the habitat. Jake was put to keep watch on the long-range scanner screens in the control room. As he watched the screens, activity on the Maglev highway showed a convoy of vehicles headed for the loading bay. Jake recognized the High Priest emblem on the lead vehicle and hurried to the loading bay to warn his father. "Dad, there are vehicles approaching our building. I think I recognize they belong to the High Priests." Zegan looked at the cameras covering the approaches from the Maglev highway to the loading bay complex. "Trouble, everyone, one of the guards must have alerted Zachary and the High Priests of your presence. Zuriel, how much more time before we are ready to launch at Helios?" Zuriel, almost ready. With the technology from our visitors, both their device and their expertise, we are almost ready. We just have to decide how best to stage the demonstration for maximum effect. Zegan, I have Speaker Zolan on the communicator. Speaker Zolan confirms that the motion to lift the ban on nuclear technology for specific purposes of star seeding has been accepted by the Supreme Council. Speaker Zolan, I have the good news that we are almost ready with the demonstration launch vehicle, yes, loaded in our H1 reagent and with the nuclear devices the human visitors have provided us. Zegan turned to Zuriel and the rest. Get prepared for some tough talk with Zachary and the priests. At least the Supreme Council has accepted our motion, and that will give us a great bargaining to have the priests stay their hands. But they can get aggressive and we have to be prepared. Zuriel, Zegan, we have to keep them away from the team outfitting the delivery vehicle. The demonstration must proceed, otherwise all will be lost. I will put all my men to prepare the vehicle for the demonstration launch at Helios. With all the Helicians all concentrating on the launch vehicle, no one noticed that the humans had boarded the habitat. Zachary burst into the loading complex with the contingent from the elite security forces of the High Temple of Helios. Zegan was ready with the guard contingent of the loading bay and met Zachary at the entrance to the loading bay. Zegan, stop Zachary, what do you think you are doing? Is the priesthood attempting a coup d'etat against the Helician state? Zachary, Senator Zegan, do not stand in my way. I have the full vote of the entire council of the high priesthood to apprehend the visitors from SOL3 and if necessary any sympathizers. Zegan, the Supreme Council has accepted the petition from the Senate on putting aside the generations-old ban on atomic technology. The visitors are under the protection of the amnesty protocol of the entire Senate. May I emphasize, the vote carried with an overwhelming supportive Senate vote. The high priests have no say in this matter. Zachary, Senator Zegan, I ask you again to step aside. Until the Supreme Council rules on the petition, the Council of the High Priesthood still has the mandate of the atomic ban adopted eons ago by our forefathers. We are here to do no more than to ensure the status quo is protected. That I do not call a coup d'etat. Zegan, Zuriel has reported to the Supreme Council that the Council of High Priest with the support of the Chief Scientist have transferred atomic material from SOL3 through the dimensional gate. Here is the advance electronic copy of the cease and desist order against any edicts or instructions concerning atomic technology until a full inquiry into all issues on this matter. So your exhortations are simply without basis. As the two sides faced each other, there was a sudden commotion from the launch rails at the other end of the loading bay. Zuriel shouted warnings to everyone, take cover, the delivery vehicle is about to launch. The assembled personnel from both sides scrambled for cover behind the blast walls built into the sides of the loading bay. All watched as the vehicle launched from the rails and shot into the sky towards dimensional gate above Helia to transit to Helios in the distant space, but that did not stop Zachary for long. He indicated the security contingent from the temples to advance into the loading bay. Earlier Colonel Owens gave the instruction to Captain Evans. Evans deploy the long-range antenna and try to establish communications with Earth. The signal strength indicators barely registered. Captain Evans, Colonel, no good, I have been trying repeatedly since you left the habitat. Colonel Owens, looks like just lowering the shields is not good enough for our signals to reach Earth. We need to use some sort of their terrestrial transmission station to relay our signals to Earth. Professor Anatoly, Ken, we need to use their equipment if we are to let Washington know our status. Captain Evans, Colonel, see the video screen, that is Zachary, the security officer of the High Priests and security contingent advancing into the loading bay. What are your orders? Professor Anatoly, we have to buy time for Zuriel and Zegan to secure the vote at their Supreme Council. They are the only chance we can stop what they are doing to the Earth. Colonel Owens, okay. Captain Evans, Sergeant Manning, arm our high-energy lasers and show those priests we are not toothless after all. With that command, the habitat's lasers powered up and shot warning blasts at the vicinity of the priests and their security personnel. The priest and security personnel were stunned by the firepower of the habitat and decided to withdraw to the perimeter at the outside of the loading bay to regroup. Professor Anatoly, Ken and came out of the habitat with the colonel to meet with Zuriel and Zegan. Ken, Senator Zegan, we need to communicate with our headquarters to let them know our status and position. Senator Zegan, I am sorry but we cannot do that. You just showed us your intentions when you came with an atomic weapon and those high-energy beam weapons that your habitat fired. Professor Anatoly, but we were just trying to help you to push those priests back. And, look Zegan, we mean you and your people no harm even after all the damage your light clouds have done to the Earth. Zuriel's communicator buzzed alive with the sounds of an incoming message. Zegan, the chief scientist image appeared on the screen and he looked particularly distressed. Zuriel, I have been trying to reach you for the last period. I kept calling but not getting any response from your communicator. Zuriel, Zegan, if you are trying to discipline me for taking the issue to the Senate and siding with the visitors then. Zegan, no, we can discuss these matters later. No, there is a critical matter that must be addressed at once. Zegan, what is it, Zegan? Zegan, an object just came over from the solar third planet. It is about that I have been trying to contact you. Zuriel glanced over to Zoe. Nothing registered here at the loading bay, are you sure? Zegan, our dimensional gate sensors detected nuclear devices inside this object and the automatic subroutine diverted it to the Great Chamber of High Priest, which has the strongest defense shields built to withstand atomic discharges. But we are not certain of the nature or strength of the devices within this object. Zuriel, Zegan, so what the humans said about their atomic materials that our mass transfer bots have taken is true. I have reported your illicit instructions on securing such materials from SOL-3 to the Supreme Council. Now your own words bear witness to your illegal actions. But right now we are in a standoff with the High Priests here at the loading bay. So I don't know what you want me to do about that object from where we are? Zegan, I have the agreement with Zevon the Chief Priest. We have to put our differences aside. This object must be examined and neutralized. Inside the habitat, the Jake was busy with some gadget on his lap. And observant as she always was, sidled up to Jake and watched what he was doing. And, Jake, what you are playing with? It doesn't seem to be like any device I have seen before. Jake, Zilia gave this to me and she had me to look at some programming problems she had. Ken glanced over and noticed the device. It too drew his attention and he came over to take a closer look. Ken, Jake, can you let me have a look at the device? Jake handed over the device to him and said to Ken and Zilia wanted to follow me into the habitat to work on this, but she did not know what we were about to do. I did not know either, so I told her not to join us until I knew. Ken, Jake, the programming that Zilia wanted you to look at. From the diagnostics you were running, I would say that Zilia had been helping her dad Zuriel on interdimensional gate travel on his main equipment, and this is the remote control device for that. Jake, Zilia is brilliant and she helped her dad Zuriel build this device, which basically projects a temporal field from the main set to any location within its power range, and I was helping her to optimize this to maximize its operability. Ken, what did Zilia say this temporal field device can do? Jake, it connects to the main dimensional gate equipment and can project a gate opening at a local position where the remote device is. Sarge Manning overheard the conversation, butted in and asked, so can we use this device as a weapon or not? Professor Anatoly corrected him, Sarge, you don't seem to understand the significance of this device. What we wish to do with the temporal dimensional gate is only limited by your imagination. Sarge, I still have to report this back to the captain and the colonel.